which is fantastic. We hope that everyone's midwinter celebrations were exactly what you needed them to be. We hope that you had a great time and that you find yourself rested. We are rested, but we are also ready to get started again. So, welcome to the Place of Wrath and Tears, a KULT Divinity Lost actual play stream. Run by Late Night Coffee, but also set in 1957, where a trio of extraordinarily healthy, well-balanced people who have gone to therapy their whole lives make extremely sound choices that are good for themselves and everyone around them. and then the Van Horsts.
In their opinions, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hashtag always right. Okay, I have to say one thing that popped into my head earlier today, where it was "Welcome to Wrath and Tears," where the memes are hieroglyphic and the lobster is always room temperature.
Oh yes.
Oh.
Yeah, because
Accurate,
I've stored all of my weird energy since Thanksgiving, so
yeah, let it out carefully.
Yeah. As always, we want to thank Curtis, the fifth member of the Wrath fam, who makes us all look fantastic and puts us together and does a hell of a good job. So Curtis, we love you. We're thankful for you. And if you cut this out when you edit it, I will find you and beat you personally. So don't you dare. But tonight is going to be. I'm going to make everything terrible by saying that tonight is supposed to be a slightly quiet night with roleplay. We're going to be handling a ceremony that's going to be emotional and important, so that'll be fun to watch. We'll also be answering questions and hearing David's perspectives on a few things. Cough, cough, the red intermission, cough, cough. So I think we're ready to go. Oh, also, one last thing, because I'm mean, I have an announcement to make, and I'm not going to give it to you until the end of the stream. Neener. So, stick around for that, because it's going to be exciting. Well, are we ready to go, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Anything that you guys want to say? Okay. Feeling very grateful for my friends right now. Like, just having the good back, back in the saddle vibes.
Yeah.
So it's always nice to see your faces and to see names that I recognize in Twitch chat. It's just like, this is a comfortable, happy place that brings me joy. And so I'm feeling that. It's been a couple days. Do we want to say?
Well, yeah, I can see that, because we left on a little bit of a cliffhanger aspect, but yes. I think that having a couple days to process that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if it's been a couple days, Clara has been very caught up in the theater since I was not able to be here last time. And we'll say she's had a few days of being pretty much 24/7 in the venue. I guess I have a cat now. He's very content to be here. Sorry. In the venue that time, getting home incredibly late. Mm-hmm. And then getting up to meet construction people in the morning, because she's doing both the back end production of it and casting dancers and meeting more money and doing that. And so she finally, after 3 days of this, is like, I have to stop. I have to see my family. And she kind of waltzes into the room at a reasonable hour, like at dinner hour. And this is the first time she has been home that hour in days. And is like, all right, I need whiskey, food of some sort that is not whatever the runner is bringing me, and to somebody tell me what I have missed. Also, I love you. And she comes and hugs Bethany and then gives Matthew a very, very long kiss.
Matthew will give her a very long kiss back and will put his half-finished drink of whiskey in her hand to finish before he goes and gets them both another one.
Thank you. They say you drinking on the job, and the men they take more seriously, and the women they roll their eyes and say, really, should you be having that? You're working. So what did I miss?
There were some developments. David ended up doing quite well at the fights. We found that the fights had another that was not a normal fighter. My guess is that he's from the same place that once was in the basement.
Definitely that.
Yes. David put him down.
Oh, yeah.
Who did it belong to?
Unclear.
He was
the big name in the underground ring. But I don't know who put him up.
That's something.
The vibe that you guys got was that he was kind of like a mercenary.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if you could hire the rabid bear in the cave in the woods. Like, that was the feeling. And that if someone said, I will give you steak to eat and men to break, he would grunt and show up.
So it was more like he was almost employed by the ring itself.
Yes.
Interesting.
That's a really good way to say that, Elon. Good job. Like, slick. Yes.
Especially with the nature of that ring.
Yes.
I think
some Caesar Palace, maybe.
I think that we might want to. There was a conquering done there of Metropolis over in whatever that place was. We may want to continue forward with that going further.
So this is a place we will want to take over for ourselves.
Probably, yeah.
Sooner rather than later.
Yes. I could try to. My goal was always going to be that we were going to continue getting more connections through the mob here. That could be one of the ways that we do it. But something else did come out from the result of this, and it seems that I have, in some ways, slighted David. He has been acting as my man for quite a while, and I have not given him the understanding that I accept this and that I see him as the knight to my king. I thought that was clear in my behavior, but we're not just looking at behavior anymore, are we? We're looking at power. So I've been thinking over that for a while. I need to do something, and I will admit, what I did with Margaret was more on instinct than planning. This is something I want to be more planned. I've been taking a lot of care into thinking it over, researching through some of the books that we've had. We know that Father had something similar, though not exactly the same, when he was able to almost to reverse what had been before, but I want this to be mine.
You aren't Father. This is your empire.
Yes.
It should be yours. And I wouldn't have wanted David to be the first experiment anyway. If things had gone wrong, he's too valuable. He is your man. But yes, it's worth doing now, doing right.
There's a lot that he hasn't told us yet about what happened while we were gone. We also need to talk to him about that. He wants to tell us. At least I believe.
And why don't we get dinner in here? He can tell us what he remembers from while we were gone. Because it's better that he tells us everything as he is now. Because I don't know. It will intrinsically change him, what you do to him.
Likely.
And I don't know how that will color his perceptions, his memories, his... I hope that he will continue to be entirely honest with you and give you every drop of knowledge, whether you will like to hear it or not. But when you are completely bidden to somebody, there are times you don't tell them things, or you color the way you talk to them because you are trying to control their emotions. You are trying to make them comfortable and happy and at ease.
That's something I'm going to need to work into this, because I don't want someone who's going to just blindly tell me what I want to hear. I need someone who will serve me even in my blind spots.
And that is something you need to put directly into the swearing.
Yes. I deal with enough yes men at the factory.
I still think he should tell us what happened first.
I see no harm in it, and perhaps that's a good lead up. What do you think, Bethany?
Yes, it seems reasonable, I suppose, that we should ask him first what happened. If you want to be sure of what he's saying as he is now, you don't know how it will change him. Although it hasn't changed your liege lord yet much, as far as we know.
We'll see how much of a difference it is when someone's already as close to being something else as David is.
I was going to say, I think that might make a difference.
It'll be interesting to see. In a way, I do hate to say it, this is, in some ways, the first of its kind for this kind of this. I know that you were saying that you didn't want him to be a guinea pig, but also, there's an honor in being the first.
You just want to... Just remember, Sophia.
I don't want it to be like that. That's what over the past few days, I keep running over in my head. I need this to be something that he wants, because there's a power in giving oneself.
He got down on his knees and asked you. I'm pretty sure
yes.
He wants this to happen.
Yes, just
be careful how you bind him.
That. I know that he's not going to turn into a Jacob, but there's that memory that I can't shake. That hate that he had. I never want to see that in David.
No.
Granted, I'm never going to be like the Phoenix Society, so there's a difference there as well.
There is.
Let's get you some food.
Yes, and get him in here, and we can eat and ask questions. Bethany, honestly, it's about him and your
Paramore?
Paramour. That's a good way of putting it.
Sure.
So I feel like maybe you should ask most of the questions. Would you not call her your paramour?
I just don't know that means I should ask most of the questions.
I think that all of us are going to be asking the questions.
I yield the field to you to start.
Okay.
He's also always been close to you, Bethany.
Yes.
True.
So
I'll work on getting us all dinner. I promise it won't be lobster. If you want to get David in here.
We will never ever forget. So yeah, Matthew will, while Clara makes sure that they get food set up and things like that. I will say that especially Bethany has noticed that like Matthew has been doing like research. It's weird, kind of. Like Matthew is not usually nervous about things. He is very much like, I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna do the thing. But like, it reminds you a little bit of when like he got like a first assignment from like our father early on when he was like starting, like that sort of thing of like, I must do this perfectly to show that I'm a good leader or something, like like that sort of vibe where like you remember that sort of like tension in him from back when you guys were much younger. And he will, after Clara like gets the food in, because he doesn't want them to be interrupted. He's actually going to put forward that maybe we should eat and then have David come in, because us eating while David comes and like does a thing gives this sort of informality to him really giving a report. That
makes sense.
Matthew's a little bit like, also like, if we're all eating and then like he's just giving a report and then we just send him on his way, it just makes things more awkward, because if he hasn't been warned that he needs to eat first. So he will set up basically for David to come in after we've eaten.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Clara will check if David has had food and if he wants food. Like,
David's like, do you knock on his door then? Like, do you, whatever, like the door across
when she's
the
ordering the food, like, she goes, no, fair enough. Conversations are happening after dinner. But I'm going to make certain if David wants food. So she comes over and knocks, goes, David, I'm ordering dinner. Do you want something?
The RCA dog tilted head confusion is like palpable through the door. like it is a very quiet, like 5 or 10 seconds. But you hear the little slider unlock and he opens the door. And what you see on his face is like a confusion, is like, why is one of my employers asking me if I've eaten in a very informal way? Like, he's definitely got that, like, this is not the structure I'm used to. Like, he's not mad, but he's like, okay, this is a little weird. But then also there's like an internal confusion, almost like he's thinking about something.
Stop eating.
As she witnesses that internal confusion, she goes, tonight we would like to talk with you about what happened when we were gone, and then Matthew was going to ask you some very formal questions. But before incredibly important things happen, all of us need nourishment. So while I'm taking care of our bodies, I just thought I would include you as an important part of our family.
He freezes like a statue, like no motion. Processes that, and then just decides to nod and says, thank you. I'm not hungry, but I think I will. I think I'll step out if that's okay and get something I prefer to drink. Would I be allowed to have a drink while we talk?
Of course. And then dress as you would for formal court.
Of course.
We expect you to report back within the hour.
Yes, ma'am.
And then she goes to get dinner.
Yes.
I love that, like, when Clara says it, it's like, we feel like you're part of this family, and like, it's like there's genuine sincerity in some aspects of that. And like, when Matthew, like, I can only think of if Matthew ever says that, it's going to just be like, when you're here, you're family.
Yeah. We foster a family atmosphere at this start.
Is a family environment here at this company.
Yeah. We keep loose hours. We have 2 ping pong tables.
If you would like to nap instead of going home to your house so you can work longer, please do so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So dinner is had. Clara eats fairly quickly, like her appetite is back, and then some, drinks plenty, and then goes to change and puts on this formal white gown, her like nice diamonds, a little more extra makeup. She is dressed for court also.
Matthew probably is also going to get like on his coat. I just don't have my suit jacket with me at this moment. But he'll be at least like relatively formal. There's still like, he's not like, I'm about to go into an immediate business meeting. He's not at the level of like Clara's formality in this, but he is certainly dressing in a way that's not, I'm just like chilling.
And she orders at least 2 bottles of incredibly expensive champagne.
Okay. Do we want to do anything before David comes into the room and we start the next like part of this conversation?
I think the only thing that would happen other than that is that, especially after she's been working really hard, Matthew's going to inquire just as to how Clara's feeling. Is she all right? Essentially, like, it's clear that he's just, how is baby doing? How is Clara doing? It's incredibly awkward.
She takes a moment, and Matthew and Bethany know that smile. It's the painted on one. It is the, I'm going to keep going because you smile for the stage and you pretend like everything's fine, and then it is. And she's like, I'm fine. We're going to have a lovely evening. And I suspect when I sleep, I'm going to sleep for 12 hours. I'm exhausted. But if I stop, I don't know when I'm going to start again, so we're not going to stop. I'm fine.
He will give her a kiss, and he will put a hand to her cheek. And tomorrow we're going to talk about overwork. I don't want you to hurt yourself in your condition.
It won't always be this bad. Getting anything off the ground is always a lot of work. I need to do it now while I can. Because I promise you, nobody in this industry lets a woman who is noticeably pregnant do this.
I know.
So, we're doing it now.
I understand.
I love you.
I love you too. That's why I'm talking.
It's what whiskey and coffee are for.
I'll get you some more then. until you need to sleep.
Yeah.
And he will actually make sure that they all have coffee and are kind of like have that sort of thing so that all of them have it and it's not just Clara. Also, I do need to state that when I spoke about Clara's condition, my wife is on the other side of my computer and like gave me like a look. I'm like, we all know, okay?
Fine.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Fine.
I am deeply entertained.
Thank you. But yeah, I think
you guys are the best.
prep.
Yeah. Okay. So David knocks on the door, and when he is let in, he is wearing he brings in a coat that has like a tie stuffed in the pocket, and he is wearing a gray shirt, a black vest and slacks, and a bright red tie, as if he has had a color scheme picked for a while.
Oh.
But also he has with him, okay, no, I'm not going to go get one. Have you guys seen the old metal containers for holding like mineral spirits? It's shaped like a can of Spam, but
Yeah.
larger. It's the, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those, and it says Ethel.
Okay.
And in equally large letters, it also says "not for consumption," like
Yes.
highly flammable. Like it's
Absolutely.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's from the Ethel Corporation, actually, because I looked up and there is one. So it's got the cool little like mid-century logo on it. Yeah. For those of you that don't know your alcohols, F is not food.
No.
Yeah.
F deadly poison. And David got a taste for it.
Of course he did.
Oh, that's what he's drinking.
Yes,
It took both Clara and Erica a hot second to catch on. Clara looks very confused. I thought you were getting... Oh. Do you like that taste?
It's strong enough. He moves his hands in a very human way, in a way that kind of contains a lot of, and he it is very possible that this is not the first container of ethanol ethyl that David has opened tonight.
Mm-hmm.
He might have loosened himself up a little bit, and he says, I got bullied into trying some while you were gone.
I see.
And I ended up liking it, so.
Well, that's a good start, isn't it? David, we wanted to hear about what happened while we were gone.
Yeah. Yes, sir. It's a lot, and not all of it is going to be looking directly at Bethany pleasant to hear.
The truth rarely is.
Okay. And he requests permission to get a drink with his hands. He does the can I go get gestures to the bar, may I please go get a drink with his hand.
It seems like that getting a drink would probably help help deal with the topics at hand. And Matthew will also look over, because he has his after dinner coffee. He's if you could also get me a whiskey. I think we'll all need something.
Yeah. So, unless someone stops him, David prepares everyone drinks.
Perfect.
And he prepares his drink last, and it is literally a lowball glass with 3 ice cubes and 4 ounces of ethyl.
Yeah, great.
And he sips it, and he sips it like it's whiskey. Like you watch the guy fucking drink a mouthful of ethyl like you guys drink, not deadly alcohol stuff.
At this point, we've seen so many sides of David's utter, that's not human. That this is at this point, Matthew's just yep, guess that's happening.
I think what entertains me from a storyteller perspective is that this is an inhuman thing that indicates an amount of personality as opposed to a loss of personality.
Yeah, no, I love it.
And I think that's why it's so entertaining.
Yeah.
I do adore it. And he's well, that's good. At least there's a nice relatable part of David right here.
Yes. Oh, good. He's an alcoholic. He fits.
Yeah.
So David takes a minute, lights a cigarette, takes a drink, but he's not ignoring you, but you can see in his eyes that he is lining everything up. He's got a story that's going to be fairly complicated to tell, and he wants it to be correct, and you can see in his face that and then this, and then this, and that's right, and then this, and then this, and then this. So, and then almost without preamble, he starts. When you disappeared, I was very worried. And when I got worried, I killed someone. I had a minor loss of control. I was worried. I was very panicked. I thought that I had failed. And so I was very upset. And so I was leaving with the body to make it go away. And after I got rid of it, I had time to think during the drive and the digging, and the thing that came to my mind was who could take them? Who has the power or the ability to take them away from somewhere, or take them away from me? It's who could do that? And essentially the first thing that came to mind was the Red Lady. She and I are not creatures of the same kind. We are fundamentally very different, and we don't naturally mesh well. There's nothing wrong with that. It's essentially just personalities, and more. So I thought that my first guess after no one came back was that possibly the Red Lady had taken you. And so I went to her house. And we had a conversation. She told me I looked like shit. I did. And she showed me what she looked like. The whole thing. She's a lot. And she convinced me that, one, she was not responsible for your disappearance, and that she was also adequately invested in returning you to here. That she and I were willing to work together to bring you home, either as a rescue attempt or guidance, or we had no idea.
David, did she know that we were gone before you told her?
The first thing I noticed about the Red Lady is she is allergic to admitting she doesn't know something. And maybe she noticed that Bethany was that Miss Bethany was further away than she normally is, but she did not admit that she had that ability to me, and she did not say that she didn't. She's very good at non-answers.
It's helpful to know that she likely didn't know otherwise. Just to know the extent of her knowledge.
Sir, I'd only give her a coin flip at best. After the things I've seen, you could tell me she's got King Kong in her back pocket, and I'd probably have to check before I said no.
Understandable. Please, go on.
So, we drive to, I want to call it a flop house. And she picks up a guy who's in a real bad way. And she needed a place that she could use like a divining rod, like a dowsing rod. And I'm getting reverb from somebody. Okay. And well, first she made me get ice cream. So that was the first thing she made. Just to make me go get ice cream. Like it was a power play. And then so she was looking for a place that she could use to do some kind of finding thing, and it sounded to me a little bit like St. Dymphna's with all of the stuff in the basement. And so we went to St. Dymphna's, and it was bad. It's full of fungus and mushrooms and spores. The whole thing's infested. But she took this guy down there, and deliberate pause, and David says, and he died. And she used him to find you. She found a earring in his stomach, and apparently that meant that she knew you were in Metropolis.
Huh.
Clara's like looking at Bethany curiously.
The he died pause. Bethany has an extremely arched eyebrow. Prior to that, she has been pretty dippy. Honestly, none of this is bothersome to her at all. And She looks at her siblings and says, for some reason, I'm thinking of a fairy tale.
Which one?
The one about a fish with a ring in its belly. It's a wishing fairy tale.
Oh. Here I was thinking about old Koshe.
No, it might even be Thumbelina. You might end up with a child in it eventually. There's lots of fish with things inside them fairy tales.
Okay.
But you gut them, and you pull them out, and it's a fortune.
Ah.
And it gives you whatever your wish is, usually.
She didn't... I don't think that it was... She treated his guts like she was reading tea leaves.
I'll give it this.
Okay, so that's the word. Yeah, that's a word that she said. But however it is, she said that you were in Metropolis, and she sounded very confident, and we had no other leads, and so Ben's thinking very hard right now. So then we went to visit something. I'm almost worried that I'm missing something. Whatever it is, I'll check and I'll think about it later. And if I missed something, I'll fill you in. I'm sorry. And this is when he takes like an actual gulp of ethyl, like one of those bracing mouthfuls. And he doesn't even wince. It's not like someone who's not used to drinking neat liquor or someone who's drinking moonshine that does the face. He just drinks fucking ethyl. And he says, and they lived in a concrete house. It was pretty, but it was concrete. And she and... What was she that day? I think she was Esma. Mm-hmm. She and the Red Lady were old friends. She was done up like it was the 20s. Like an old movie star. And she had her hair all wrapped, and she talked like a radio person. Not like crackly, but the accent. And that's what we did. She killed an engineer. Do you remember the two engineers that you met in that small town that was near where the Red Lady lived?
The ones who are worshippers, yes?
No, the ones doing the science.
Yes.
They were also worshippers.
They were also worshippers, though. They were in some form of...
invited to dinner, and it was awful and disgusting.
Yes.
Well, he's dead now.
Oh, good.
He is exceedingly dead.
Oh, good.
She pulled his everything off with her hands.
David, how much should we worry about the trail of bodies that was likely left behind in this endeavor?
Not at all, sir. I am a professional.
I'm glad to hear.
I think this was the last human we killed for a while. Yes.
Edward was the loud one, and Marcus was his quiet friend. Yes.
It was Edward. He had really, really terrible breath because he was had like some kind of awful not chewing tobacco.
The
he's
crunchy, yes.
He's extremely dead.
Okay.
And I also found out where that comes from. Yeah. So the red lady had play seduced him into bringing her trinitite, which is the glass that forms in the desert during the test detonations.
Yes.
Because apparently, you know, and it's interesting because you can actually like essentially watch David's personality come out as he talks.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, because apparently it's magic.
That's what we found, yes.
So we took a thing full of that and we went to Lady Viridian's house, and she was radioactive and she was very worried about my ankles, which I think was a radiation joke that I didn't understand.
Oh.
But she was a glass maker. And so the red lady asked her to build a lighthouse lens, a Fresnel lens, because when she realized that you were in Metropolis, she realized that it wasn't about rescuing you, it was going to be more about helping you find your way back. So apparently she decided that we needed a lighthouse. So Lady Viridian said that she would help us, but she needed something in return, like everybody does. And so she had like a person that she was a little bit obsessed with, but it didn't sound romantic. It sounded more like a pet.
Okay.
And this guy had been kidnapped and he was in San Francisco and she wanted our help getting him back.
Right.
So we went and got him, and he was being held in a government house.
So the government kidnapped him?
I think, but I think it was like OIS.
Interesting.
Well, you got him. Yeah, it was the Bureau. It was Bureau related, and it was other things, and it was something that they called MK Ultra, which is apparently something to do with a lot of drugs and kidnapping, and also hookers. And so, the people in that building, or they discovered a hallucinogen that let them see through the illusion.
Interesting.
But
that is useful.
No, ma'am, it is not, because it is not a good see.
Matthew is so stiff at this point because of what happened at like St. Dimphna's.
Yeah.
Like Matthew's like full on like, I'm not having a flashback. What are you talking about? It's fine. I'm fine.
Merrick silently like reaches a hand over and grabs Matthew's real hand.
Real men don't have flashbacks.
Yeah, like no. Matthew's like, oh, that's very nice. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Well, clearly maybe Clara needs Matthew.
It's true. He's like, he pats her hand. He's like, it's all right.
Yeah.
he will comfort her and her womanly emotions.
Exactly.
Because he certainly doesn't have any. He's fine.
What a journey into the dark heart of masculinity we've gone on. So And then at this point, David's eyes go distant, not in a remembering way, but almost ever so slightly like in a trauma way. Like in what he is remembering at this point is fucking so bad that it's actually messing him up a little bit to remember. Not like PTSD flashback level, but definitely like, wow, man, that was messed up. He says, and the red lady was mad because apparently she has coffee with the person who runs MK Ultra. And she should have been able to make a phone call and get this guy just like dropped off. This should have been a 5-minute fix. But apparently the people in the safe house decided that they were going rogue, or they went crazy and stopped answering the phone. And she was madder than hell. And she did something with her fingers. And she wrapped the building up. She did like a cat's cradle. Like she did like this with her fingers. And it's like she pinched off a piece of the world. Which was an experience. And then we went into the building and we found out that the people had taken the drugs and that they had gone very, 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 very mad. And that they had gotten so far gone that they had started mutating.
Oh.
Like one guy's leg bones fell out of his body and he was using them like daggers, like he was like stabbing and pulling himself along with them, but all of the muscles in his legs were moving like octopus legs.
So this isn't going to be something we're going to be attempting.
No. These are terrible drugs. These are terrible, terrible drugs. He says, sipping ethyl and putting it down. Well, at the end of the day, and he pauses and he looks directly at Bethany with a incredibly stricken look. With a like, if I continue on this, something bad is about to come out of my mouth, and you're not going to like it.
Bethany just raises an eyebrow and waits.
So we recovered her friend, and he was not very good, and she was going to put him in a cave and turn him into an art installation anyway, so I guess I don't really know if we saved him as just transferred his destruction. Anyway, I try not to think about it. So then the Red Lady and I went back to St. Dymphna's because she decided that was a place it has the right flavor for what she wanted to do. And one of the other things that we had recovered in San Francisco was another Bethany. Or another thing that looks like Bethany. And she made me kill her and do magic with her blood.
Thank you, David.
It was peaceful. But that was the markings on the structure that you saw when you came out was partially my work and mostly Bethany blood.
If it helps, David. She likely, out of all of them that we've met, had the most peaceful death of all of them. Usually they don't have that.
It's just hard to kill someone that you know. It's
She's not me.
The only Bethany that you know, the only real, true Bethany, is the one here.
Yes, and I wrapped my head around it, which is why you're back, but it was not. It was a tough road to hoe. So
I understand.
And
I appreciate you did it. I do.
You got us all back. You got the real Bethany back.
I know, but it hurt to do. It's not the last person that looks like that I had to kill while you were gone. So
I say,
but that's later. That's a little bit later. So I feel like there's something I'm missing and I can't remember it, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. So we were buying things to build the lighthouse. Oh, and Lady Radium was the one that gave me a watch that your father ordered. That's where that was from.
I see.
I think he'd commissioned other pieces from her.
I'm going to be looking further into that.
Could we?
Yeah. Yes. But ma'am, she is literally radioactive. She is literally an undying, like, rotting on the inside under her illusion radium girl.
So we start with letters. That's what you're telling me, or a phone call.
Phone call.
That's my recommendation. It's apparently not dying on the spot when I walked into her house was the thing that told her that I wasn't human anymore.
Fair. Can she use phones? I've heard that radiation can be problems with that.
I don't know. I guess she can't kill me, or at least being around her doesn't automatically kill me, so conceivably I could just deliver a letter.
Letters are likely the best way to go about it.
Yes, and then she also later made me claws.
Well, that's useful.
And he flexes his fingers, and kind of under the illusion, you see 10, like, cat-like, gleaming, clear crystal claws come out of the ends of his fingers.
That's very useful.
And I can't remember. No, I think she tricked me next. I think she tricked me. Well, apparently what we were going to do is that we were going to use one of the test detonations essentially as the light behind the lens. So that was going to be the power that we were going to shine through the lens and into Miss Bethany to create a kind of a lodestone or a guiding light sort of situation. frankly, I wasn't up on the science of it. It just continued to seem to work, so I did my part. So she needed things to be buried in the testing grounds so that she could triangulate. Essentially, she needed me to bury uranium glass in the ground, but she was connected to it somehow. It's all fairy tale stuff. I don't know the rules, but I don't have to. I just have to know what to do. So I was burying teacups in the ground when an above ground test detonation went off. Because she was tired of me pretending that I was human. And she needed me to understand that I wasn't. Because I wasn't useful enough to you when I was stuck on being human. So I was in the detonation range. And if I didn't admit that I wasn't human, I would have died, because a human dies and what I am doesn't. And the stuff that the engineer was using as tobacco was the charred remains of the pigs that they use at the test site to determine the effects of radiation at various ranges.
That certainly tracks.
And the world broke. And I killed a lot of things. I killed a painting. Or it looked like a painting. But at the end, I admitted that I wasn't a human. And so I got to live. And then she put me in a rig, St. Dimphna's, like I was a broken car, and put tubes in me and replaced all of my dying radioactive cancer-filled blood with other things. And I slept it off.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you admitted you weren't human, and that you slept it off, and that she did all those things. Sounds hellish, though.
Do you think she was right?
That I wasn't human?
No. She seems to have presumed that because you weren't admitting that you weren't human, that you weren't able to serve us as well. Do you think that that was accurate?
I think that I have since learned that what I look like right now is a lie, and it is a useful one, but it is not what I look like anymore. And that I can enjoy wearing these clothes, but they're not me.
That's an answer. It's not the answer to my question.
I don't know. I feel better. I feel cleaner. I feel stronger. I feel more at peace. But I don't feel as much anymore. There's always a piece of me now. I can't hide it anymore, and I can't ignore it. There is always a piece of me that is looking at everything like a battlefield, doing trajectories and making plans, and there's always a piece of me that is looking at the world around me and figuring out how to kill the world with it. Does it make me a better servant? Probably.
You were coming to this natural thing from what I was seeing. I admit that I am not happy with her for having forced that step instead of letting it happen. She presumed quite a lot. It's something that I'll bring up with her.
I've made my peace with her because I've made my peace with myself. But I think that you also have every right to be cross with her about it.
You are mine, and she did
Yes,
almost
sir.
kill you. But that's going to be something for tomorrow.
Yes. And you can see David do the mental effort of pulling himself out of a flashback, of just like reaching into his own mind and pulling himself out from underneath a flaming overturned truck. And the things that he felt and the screams that he, like, you can see him pull his own mind out of that place. And so we were... And then we were buying things at a hardware store in town because we needed nails and a couple of hammers and a saw to build the actual physical part of that. And somebody tricked me. And I'm embarrassed to say it, but somebody tricked me. I don't know whether to say that it was a failing or if it was just loyalty, but I thought I saw Miss Bethany and I followed her out of the store, and it was a trap. And they separated me from the Red Lady, and people tried to kill her. And they did it with things that had markings carved in them. She talked about it like they were specific to her. Like they were weapons made to kill just the Red Lady. She didn't tell me how it worked. I think that there was a piece maybe of her pride that she didn't want to tell me something that could kill her. I don't blame her. But she was hurt. She was bleeding, and she was hurt, and she was angry, and she was mad at me, and she had every right to be, and so we fought. And I lost. And then we yelled at each other for a while, but we were both very tired and very hurt and very upset. And so it's just what happens when things are around each other and they're tired and they're busy and they're upset. So we had a good old-fashioned screaming match. And we generally decided to leave most of it behind. And so we didn't want to go back to anywhere that either of us were connected to, because we were worried that because it clearly was a trap that we were being followed. So we didn't want to go back to anywhere that was a critical location. So we didn't come back here. We didn't go back to St. Dymphna's. We didn't go anywhere else. So we got a hotel room with 2 beds. I paid an amount out of petty funds to make sure that we had 2 beds, because apparently none of the, but that wasn't going to happen at all, ever. We both agreed that was a thing that was never going to happen. But so we were still very frustrated with each other, and we were talking it out, and then this is the first, so David's been drinking. Essentially, every time I've taken a sip of my midnight coffee, yeah, David has, drank some fucking Ethel. But this is the first time that you can see even the slightest bit of drunk. And it is a question for the ages as to whether or not this is David simulating drunkenness as a method of letting himself be informal, or if he's actually drunk. But he laughs to himself and he goes, and we still weren't really getting along, but we were both very tired and we were very hurting, and we were kind of agreeing to disagree, and it was very tense. And then a couple of Mormons knocked on the door. And we got room service. So and then we went to a diner. And we talked about a lot of things. We talked about David's face is a mix of complicated emotions. And a lot of it is this is now becoming an awkward conversation face. We talked about her courting Miss Bethany, and what all that meant, and I told her it was, I know it's not my place to say yay or nay, but I told her it was fine with me as long as she didn't do anything to hurt you. And if she hurt you, I'd pull off every single feathers out of her wings one by one with rusty pliers. And she has a sweet tooth. It was sugar in the coffee and extra syrup on the pancakes, and it was everything with sugar in it. And so we talked about things, and just, if you'll pardon me swearing, we just shot the shit mostly about this, that, and the other. She was apparently in World War I. Apparently she was a British soldier in World War I.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, apparently she's got a bit of a presto changeo. So,
from what I've seen, not entirely surprising.
No, but when we both realized we had war stories to share. That was kind of the thing that got us kind of like talking more friendly. And so that was kind of the ground that we sort of like put most of everything behind us. And then she didn't tell me what happened after this, but I was finishing up. Oh.
Yes, David.
And then we went to the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
Nice.
The one about 2 hours from home. Which is apparently where the Red Lady keeps all of her broken Bethanies.
All the way back near Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
She used magic, and I don't even want to try to explain it, frankly. Sir, ma'ams, it's just...
I'm more concerned that there's many copies of Bethany that close to Pittsburgh.
Not anymore.
I was going to ask.
Someone got into the wing of the hospital where the Bethanies were being kept, and David's face now is a mask of horror and trauma. Whatever this is the thing he's been trying to not talk about. And they kind of possessed one of the Bethanies. And she possessed one, and she used some kind of a flesh magic to turn the rest into kind of a an amalgamation. Like dozens of Bethanies all smushed together like clay. It filled a hallway. They were all screaming in your voice, ma'am, and I recognized all of them. And I had to kill all of them. I've killed people that look like you about 100 times. And the Red Lady chased down the person who was possessing one of them, and they got into some kind of a witch fight. I don't know. And she says she did him harm, but she couldn't trap them. But the reason we went there is because we needed more attuned bodies to finish building the lighthouse. And apparently we had to rework a few things because she was expecting to have more materials than we ended up with, but we got what we needed out of there, and then we came back. And then she went out to get some materials, just bits and bobs. She didn't really say. I think probably I don't know. Eye of Newt, who knows? And something happened to her, and she came back bad. She came back like something bad had happened to her. Something that hurt her real bad. But not physically, but mentally. If she was a human and she was my age, I'd say it was shell shock. But something happened to her while she was out, and I don't know what it was, but it made her tired in her soul. You know, like she had been hurting ever since those hobos tried to kill her. like her body was hurting, but whatever happened when she was out by herself, it hurt her in her soul, and it made her tired. But that was fine because we were done, and I had finished drawing the glyphs, and then the detonation went off, and everything worked, and we shined the light through the lens into the eyes of Bethany, and apparently it shined back into your eye because a little while later, a door opened and we led you out. And that's my report on what I did last summer.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome, sir.
For everything. Both the report and for all you did to help get us back. You did good.
Thank you. If I could speak candidly for a minute. Miss Bethany, I'd really prefer it if you took care of killing your own doubles for a while.
Of course.
I'm a little full up.
I don't mind at all.
Okay. I know they're not you, but they are the face of someone I am sworn to protect, and that is hard.
I understand. They are not me. And you did protect me by doing what you did.
I know. But that's what happened while you were gone. There's more, but it's all just, window dressing and, the potatoes around the turkey. But that's the big parts. And there were some funny moments too, because she told me that I was going to have to learn how to do magic. And she said she was going to teach me because I needed to help draw the glyphs and the symbols that brought you all home. And so we were talking about it, and I told her, I said, the only magic I know that you do is the stuff that you've implied that you do with Miss Bethany, and frankly, I've got no interest in doing similar things with you. So if you expect this to be some kind of canoodling spell, that she's just going to have to take a fucking walk about it. And she said no, she's about as interested in that as I am. So it was just good old-fashioned murder, which for better or for worse, I'm more comfortable with. So I am David is now clearly just a little bit drunk, and he will probably sober up soon because he's a war machine. But I am, your lady's virtue remains intact.
No, it doesn't, I assure you.
This is them getting revenge on us, Matthew, for all the times we've flirted. Yes.
Flirted.
I know.
Flirted. Sometimes our rooms share walls. You can just think about that for a while.
I blame that on the shoddy construction.
There is other business to be done tonight.
Yes, though let's wait a little bit on it because to give you some time to get all that out of your system. And he will look at the currently empty glass.
Yeah, at the nearly empty 32-ounce bottle of ethyl.
Yeah, he's like,
yeah,
we're not gonna do a fancy ceremony while you're drunk.
David's literally flammable right now.
But
you should come.
Let's give ourselves about an hour or so.
Yeah, and let's give ourselves about.
I was going to say, David, you should be clear-headed. Matthew, you should set this room. However you wish this ceremony to be, this will be a ceremony.
I know.
And both of you should consider if you wish David in this form or in his true form for the swearing.
I have.
But in an hour. Or after our break.
Or after our commercial break.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna take 10 guys, and then we're going to
Yep.
see what happens when you swear a war machine to your service. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Sounds good.
All right, see you later. Hey everybody, Elon had to scoot. Elon had to scoot. Everything's fine. So what we are going to do is we're actually going to stop game for tonight right here, because the next thing is the knighting, and that's not going to be able to happen tonight, which is okay. I mean,
we're a safety conscious game, and when somebody needs to go, we respect that. Like, so
yeah. You know,
we're not going to pressure anybody to stay.
Yeah.
And we had a talk and decided that this next beat is really big and important, and we don't want to like dilute anything in the story by going on when the next big thing is going to be next game anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, sorry, not sorry. But what we're going to do right now is I have something to, I have an announcement to make. But before we're going to do that, we're going to open up the floor for just a quick Q&A with the people. If anybody wants to ask a question in chat, you can. And when that naturally runs out of steam, I'm going to tell you something cool. So.
Yeah. Come here. I said, if the Q&A is us just showing our cats off, Molly just got here.
Oh.
Come here, baby. Come here. No. You walked away.
But, boys are all the way.
I'm not watching the Twitch chat, so Ben, do you
I have to read it. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can hear. I will.
Oh, are your boys together?
There.
Oh.
Can you see a Ziggy and a Taika?
Yes, we can.
This,
big one.
The inimitable Selkie asks, why are there so many cats on stream? Do they like the cameras?
Bobo is here sitting directly in front of the ring light.
Yes.
Like, he's just basking in its glow.
Fancy man.
So maybe.
Yeah.
Ziggy is my Velcro baby, and he screams if I don't let him sit next to me at all times. And so he gets to be in the room, because otherwise there would be a yelling on the other side of the door.
We had a cat 100 years ago that had one of those little, like, not tinsel, but like one of those crinkly little tinkle balls. That's like super thick foil. But he would pick it up in his mouth and then walk through the do that hurry walk through the house with it in his mouth, screaming at the top of his lungs. And every time he did it, I was entirely certain that it was stuck in his mouth.
Oh, no.
That, like, oh no, something's stuck in my mouth. Something's stuck in my mouth. No, he's just walking around with the fucking thing screaming.
Molly does that. That's the kill. That's the
Molly does the
my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was also the cat with a shoe fetish. Multiple times attempted to steal my wife's red leather Isaac Mizrahis. Like, more than once, I was woken up to the sound of this cat pulling the shoes out of the room, stuck on the door.
Good taste, at least.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. There was air quotes, actually a good question.
I mean, not related to cats.
Yeah, because cats are good questions.
What happened in Metropolis during the Red Intermission? Mr. Cultist, what happened in Metropolis during the Red Intermission was the stuff that happened in Metropolis during the Wrath and Tears stream. So after Clara oops all Metropolis herself, into Metropolis, and they followed her through the Nuke Church, and they went around, and they went to Metropolis, and they met with the Vitriol people and committed like genocide and all of that. That was essentially the things that were happening with the Van Horsts during the Red Intermission.
And then there was a stabbing, and then
there was an insurgency. It was a thing.
Yeah.
And then they went into the underworld because I thought it would be fun to go somewhere different. And there are some slight underworld ideas floating around in my head, but we had a quick meeting and decided that it wasn't really wasn't bringing any of us enough joy, essentially. And so we just decided to kind of let that period of time in the underworld just kind of fade to black, and just let them come out from the portal in the Red Intermission, having been guided home via massive amounts of blood sacrifice and radiation.
So we would have been stuck in the underworld way longer if it wasn't for the portal and the lighthouse, but we got our shortcut home. And because Clara is working on intentionally opening gateways, but kind of has no clue how to do it without some grand assistance, be that sacrificing a worshiper or her friends on the other side doing a mass amount of blood sacrifice or whatever. She couldn't open a portal or a gateway on her own yet, but she's getting the basic concepts, generally with death and sacrifice involved. Yeah. So that got us home.
Yay!
Yay!
It is a very interesting challenge to run a cult game that, by the way, we hit 40 episodes tonight. So the big 4-0, the show is now as old as I am.
That's wild.
Yeah. And so one of the challenges that's been presented is it's difficult to tell a story with enlightened characters, because sometimes the stuff they can do is pretty significant, and so it's very interesting to create challenges out of that, Yeah. But thankfully the Van Horsts are disasters, and so they managed to roleplay themselves into more problems than they dice themselves out of. Yeah. So,
but we also.
I was gonna be like, Bethany looked at things that were like, oh, look, here's this easy manual for how to do a magic. And she went, icky. I don't like it. Here.
And we also, when we started this game, and still now, we very much did it from the player's guide perspective, not from the full game perspective. So we didn't really know how magic worked, and we still don't know how magic worked. So we're kind of stumbling through how to be enlightened and stumbling into enlightenment, which draws it out because we don't have a map in front of us. Which definitely makes it a little harder. And hopefully the people who know KULT very deeply aren't like, what are these idiots doing?
Well, there's at least one literal writer for KULT who watches us and says we're the cat's pajamas. So that's all
lovely. That's great.
And also it would be cool to get a book on what the fuck do you do when they enlighten, because it would be because reasons. But
you all missed going into the stream. I was like, because I missed last game, Claire was off being pregnant and sick or something, and Ben said, no, we don't fridge women here. Claire was off being very competent about theater. And so I was like, yes, of course she was. Now she's off working all the time. But the amount of enlightenment planning and cultist building and power building that I have planned for this Metropolis review, I'm like, all right, if she was off being competent about the theater, the show is getting built. In the next few episodes, the Metropolis review on stage, inspired by the old black and white Metropolis film, is going to go live in Las Vegas, and then some shit's gonna happen. So that has been in the mental planning for a year, for a long time. And now
when we were so excited, we were staying in Vegas. When we weren't just here, couldn't immediately find the thing and go home. And we're like, I guess we're here for a little bit. like that long. It's been a really long time. I'm excited.
Yeah. So now it's being made.
And honestly, like Eric has done enough work that honestly, if someone handed her a briefcase full of money, she could probably actually make the Metropolis review happen.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
Off game. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Which parts of the red intermission did each of your characters find most unsettling, specifying from David's retelling? You can also, if you've also watched the red intermission, you can also like aside with that as well.
Probably Bethany didn't find enough of it unsettling. The thing that I was talking to Ben about actually right before we hopped on was that from what I remember from the actual red intermission, the oopsie at the hardware store and the proving grounds are switched because the red lady was angry at David, which is why he got exploded. Because there was like logical reasoning there. But from like a person who's interested in story and story beats and playing, it makes more sense to me that David wouldn't see the like, oh, I failed and she was mad at me, so she blew me up. This was a terrible thing that she did to me. And also I kind of fucked up over here and it made her real hurt and that was bad. And so the timeline doesn't matter to him so much. But what made it really interesting is the way that he told it. It seemed like just a thing she was doing to make him seem, to unhuman him. And that was the thing that made like the Van Horst angry. And so like from David's perspective, I think that's a thing that like was really interesting because Bethany's like, I think there's a reason that happened maybe. And I don't know what it was. And also I need her to be not asleep so I can talk to her again.
Yeah. Lucy, you got some splaining to do.
Yeah. Clara was most disturbed by finding out there was a whole wig of Bethany's in an Allegheny mental hospital, like close to home.
Mm-hmm. Bethany
That's
is
a problem. That's a PR problem. So Clara was most disturbed by the PR problem. Well, not by David, not by the Inhuman, not by the Claws, not by the Radium girl. She's like, there are workers at that mental health institution that definitely know the Van Horst faces because we're in the newspaper, because we're the most important people in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. Of course we are. They're probably not, but she thinks they are. So even if people have been paid off, even if it's been quiet and it's only 3 people that work in that institution, there are 3 people that knew there were tons of copies of Bethany around. Mm-hmm. And she's like, that's a problem. She was really disturbed by that. She's like, what? That's why she asked, like, back home? Yeah. You mean, and it wasn't the red lady took you that far, which is what he clarified. She's like, no, transporting happens. I kind of open gates now. I got it. That's easy. PR problems are a nightmare.
I had not at all considered the PR component, and I'm glad that you did.
There you go. I also was just into like Bethany being like, see why I don't like going into hospitals. They obviously take all of me and lock them up in it. It's bad. Don't go there.
Yeah.
That's why Bethany's freak out about hospitals makes sense.
If I can give any game runner a piece of advice that I think that I've learned is to in downtime encourage your players just to think out loud and just don't talk. Like let your players just like ruminate about what's happening and just kind of like, listen to the water cooler talk about your game, because they're going to say things that you never would have thought of, like exactly what Erica did when I'm worried about the PR and I'm like, oh yeah, like media shit. And so it's like, yes, of course that can be a huge problem.
No, honestly, like, no, it's not that I want to create more problems for us, but whatever. Who's keeping them? Like, Clara is so worried about this. This is a big tag in her mind. Who's keeping them? Even if they paid somebody off to keep their mouth shut about a dozen Bethanys who are now dead. Also PR problem. Did you pay off every janitor? Did you pay off every orderly?
Also,
like, how many mouths can you keep shut and how many people actually go through a mental health institution. It's a lot.
Bethany also,
and that's a lot of bodies.
There are people hunting the Red Lady, and they are doing things like destroying all the Bethanies or possessing them to hurt her and things. And that's a problem for Bethany.
This is a nightmare.
She doesn't enjoy
that. Was the nightmare part of David's story retelling.
Yeah.
The stuff that Ben didn't think of was the worst part. Fantastic. Non-sarcastic.
Yes, Bethany does have a problem with their people hunting the Red Lady, because why? And that's a problem. And she's asleep now, and we need to make sure they don't go get her, because Bethany will be upset. And when Bethany gets upset, it gets explodey.
Yeah.
You said, okay, BREAAD, bread, I presume. You said at the beginning that you intended this game to demonstrate the ability to tell heavy stories safely. Are you enjoying the balance of those tensions? Oh yeah. And then a follow-up question. To me, there is no tension in player safety. When the way I describe this in this, in any circumstance where there are complicated things that multiple people are engaged in that have a potential to be traumatic or dangerous or anything else, my description is that we are communally building the toy box or the sandbox, and we build it, and you just know where the edges are and you never hit them. Only when someone says, I know that this is a heavy subject for me, but I'd like to touch on it, or I think it would be cathartic for me, to approach this to approach this problem. Like, you'll notice that there are a lot of shitty patriarchy avatars in Wrath and Tears who do shitty patriarchy things, and a lot of them are killable. But which is delightful and apparently quite cathartic for at least Kate. But the thing is you'll also notice that essentially there is, because we just took it all the way off the board, but there is no sexual assault. That was flagged as not fun. It's outside of the box, and so, but we've got all of these other completely not that male problems and culture problems and, capitalism problems that you don't have to touch. We're just staying inside the box. So if you build the box well, if you talk it out till you're done fucking talking it out. If you sit down and you have a game zero and you spend 3 hours talking about health and safety and consent and lines and veils and pick your mechanics, use the ones that are right for you. And you sit down and you have a 3-hour conversation about safety mechanics, and you go, well, we're out of time for tonight, but clearly we've still got some stuff to talk about. This is a great conversation. You have the fucking conversation till you're done. Yeah. Not till you're bored, not whatever. You talk about the safety shit until you're done. Yeah. Until you're out of safety shit to talk about. And then you just keep checking in. Is it hard to tell stories with that? No, because we have a really, really big sandbox. Look, it's, as far as I can say, that we've, with the exception of the domestic abuse episode that we had a couple episodes ago that really bounced up against my comforts, which I'm okay, and I was okay, and I did it on and I did it knowingly and paying attention to myself, but bounced up against some of my comforts. But aside from that, we've never even gotten close to the walls of our safety box. Now maybe we have. Erica made a face.
No, and I wanted to dovetail on it because that was the episode where we got close to the walls of the box, and that was also close to the walls of the edge of edging on sexual assault without getting there. But we could get that close because we had talked things out so often and we trusted each other so much that we knew we could push these boundaries. And what I say when I'm teaching safety mechanics to other people is I can never push really deep into story or push into really hard, rough topics with people unless I've seen them say no in other circumstances before. I don't trust somebody to say yes unless I know their no exists.
Yeah.
And so I really need to know that people can use safety mechanics for me to tell a deep, dark, hard story. Or
Yeah.
I keep holding back. I hold back my gaming and I hold back my stories as somebody who loves to tell dark stuff. I won't do it if we don't have some really strong safety mechanics. So the fact that we all trust each other and we have these mechanics in place opens up our abilities to tell those stories. And like that scene with Clara, that was rough and traumatic. And then the recovery, like the aftercare game that we had one after, which I ended up asking for. I was like, I think I need Clara to go through some aftercare. She went through some real trauma there. And it's a thing that Erica's bad at processing. Clara's also going to be bad at. So I've got to go push into those walls and push into that dark, hard place. And it was really hard to get there. It was almost harder to get there for the aftercare than the trauma was. Because you have to be so vulnerable and so opening yourself to people, and you have to trust them so much. But because we had so many safeties a lot around and we had talked through so many things, we were able to open up and dive in deep. And and I loved the scene where Clara nearly, like, where that almost happened with Clara. And I loved the way it went with you, Ben, where I was like, hey, can I just take narrative control of the scene for a moment? And you went, yeah. Because it felt like, to me, a stage combat scene where, if anybody knows, when you do the hair pull in stage combat, like, one person puts the hand loosely on the head, and that's the person pulling the hair. But the person whose hair is being pulled puts their hand over top of it and is actually the one in control, moving everything around. And that felt like the narrative equivalent of a stage hair pull.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
it worked.
Yeah. I mean, what I heard was, can I please make myself comfortable by controlling what's happening? Like,
exactly.
Can I pick my harm? Sure.
Yeah.
Now there's two follow-ups to that, and this is a really fun line of questioning. I guess they refined their question and said, are you telling the stories you want to tell? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I am here to be creative with my friends. I am here to tell a very scary story, and I am here to give my friends extremely well-seasoned scenery to chew. You know? So, like, am I telling the story? Yeah, absolutely. Because when I build my story, I'm inside the safety box.
Yeah.
You know? It's an easy one to say because it is such an extreme and clear-cut example. For example, there is no story beat that's ever going to include sexual assault. Done.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sitting here going, oh man, I really wish we could have an assault in this storyline, but I guess I'm hampered by safety mechanics. I'm just not even reaching over into that bucket, you know?
There's also never going to be a child harm scene, because that's another, like, one that's in the category for us that we talked about way early in game. Like, that's never going to happen here.
Yeah.
So that's just not in the story, and that's fine. There's plenty of other terrible things that can happen.
Yeah. And I'm sorry if that sounds trite or canned. Like, honestly I am, but the answer is, like, when you take, in my experience, when you take the time to create and understand and agree on and respect boundaries, the story just writes itself within those shapes. Yeah. You know, and if you're struggling working with a table to tell a story that doesn't bump up against that doesn't bump up against, like, hard limits and safety callouts, you need to throw a big time out and take a really hard look at what you're doing. And go back to the safety mechanic level and take a long, hard look at what's happening and what you're thinking. So,
and also, like, these the people that I want to tell that story with, because sure, maybe there's other people where those, like, maybe that's just not the story for those people, which is fine. There's plenty of other stories to tell, and there's plenty of other people to tell stories with. But, like, also, we're having fun and we show up every couple of weeks because we're really enjoying doing this. And
Yeah.
we did through all the pandemic before we got to have people watch us. And so we're excited that you get to join us on our adventure. But very selfishly, we show up here because we like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, scaring my friends is cathartic. You know, making my friends comfortably uncomfortable is fun. You know, this is very much so my happy place. And so this is just a great chance to tell us, you know, because like, you know, Kate responds fantastically to certain things. Erica responds fantastically to certain things. Elon responds fantastically to certain things, and all in very different ways. And, you know, like our visitors, Samara responds differently to body horror and various things. Caroline responds differently to different aspects of horror. Every person that's been in Wrath and Tears has a different response. And part of what kind of like in my madman's head, in my evil scientist head, is trying to create a full kaleidoscope of response. Is get a little bit of this out of Erica, get this out of Kate, get this out of Elon, like get a group of responses out of people. And I think that's part of the fun for me. And okay, building off of this, for Ben, Erica, and Kate, do you have a favorite heavy moment trademark from the game?
I have a few. Sadly, one of them is a pre-stream moment, but it is one of the ones that I love a lot, which was we had to go visit the fourth sibling in the hospital, and it was the first time we had tried to take Bethany to a hospital ever, and she was having essentially a panic attack because hospital bad, they will take me away and lock me up and I will never get to leave. Bad place. And so she was doing she was in the car and mentally like willing, like, this isn't real, it's just not real, like, and Ben was like, is she trying to like force herself to dissociate and use madness to change like her situation? And I was like, yes. He's like, I'm asking for clarity for specific, like, is Bethany going to go off and be an enlightened like madness magician? And I was like, 100%, that is what she is trying to do. She is absolutely attempting to shape the world with her insanity. That is what she wants. It's all messed up. She'd at least like to be in control of the messed upness of it. And that was a really good, like, it was a good character moment for Bethany in a clarifying way, I think, for both of us about how we're telling her story, that I really enjoyed. And it was from a place of like extreme, like, because even sitting here around a table, like, I go through a lot of the emotions that Bethany is going through, and like the amount of like tension and panic that's happening because she has to do a thing is interesting to me. And so I thought that was a very interesting, hefty moment. And I will let other people talk and try to think of an on-screen one.
I mean, the whole fight with Alistair was amazing, but I already talked about it. The trauma, the aftercare game, and Clara processing that trauma was really good. But probably my favorite moment was after Clara fell asleep and Matthew and Bethany were like talking over her, and Bethany explaining that every time Clara goes to seduce somebody, this could happen.
Yeah.
That this is the realities of being a woman.
Yeah.
And Clara being very strong and very protective and being the eldest, and putting herself at risk all of the time, and that she will always put herself at risk, but this could happen every time, and us women just live with that reality. Oh, that was such a strong moment and such a hard moment, and like teaching Matthew that, but being able to address this very real world conversation we're still having to this day, which sucks, but we are. I thought it was really good. I loved it.
That was a really good moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the heavy for me, the heavy moments are giving myself permission to let the world be terrible. You know, like I am extremely uncomfortable with how shitty masculinity is, with toxic masculinity. It's uncomfortable, because as someone who was raised masculine in America, even if you're fighting against it, you still have the script. And so it is a challenge sometimes to go and dig through the script, and read lines off of that and keep that all at a remove from yourself. But I also think that it's been desperately important for the game to touch on that stuff, because the places of the Van Horsts in society as extremely affluent people, as, ladies and gentlemen, as, for Bethany as someone who is publicly mentally ill, understanding these places is important. And you don't understand those places if you're not exploring them. Like the shithead at the dress store, that Bethany's just like, no, fuck you, and just gives an aneurysm to out of sheer pique. Like, that was a challenging scene because it's uncomfortable knowing the dance steps, because I know the dance steps. The dance steps I were taught were the aggressor's dance steps. And so it's a different challenge to be, instead of being like, I know what it is like to be the victim in this situation, saying, I know how to simulate this aggression is a different kind of uncomfortable. So it's, so that's been one of those things where it's like, no, this is actually whatever, I've explained myself adequately, but, okay. Have your goals shifted, or did you achieve them? Okay. We're still working with that one question as we try to refine it, because it's a good question. I have not. Thank you. So have your goals shifted, or have I achieved them? Honestly, I think that we've achieved our goal of showing that you can tell a super hard story and use all of the safety mechanics in the toolbox at the same time. Part of it is because we have created a natural environment where the safety mechanics are in play, where safety lines are kept and things like that, that it almost like it's very front of house, back of house, in that it looks almost effortless because it's just a natural way of us doing things. And so I believe that, no, I think our goal of showcasing that you can tell a hard ass, scary ass, 100% pure cult, straight, no chaser in a dirty glass, and use every safety mechanic in the book and then a couple more. I think we're doing a great job of that. And I think some of the stuff that we've gone on with mental illness and body horror and trauma and, dehumanization and war and like the 1,000 horrors of society and I don't want to do it right now because it'll take me an hour, but I think we've hit probably at least 8 of the Archons and Death Angels already. So I feel like we're doing pretty good.
We committed a genocide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did that in Metropolis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still feel dirty about it, but we did it safely out of character. Yeah.
And there was, so I agree. But also it's, there's been a couple times where, someone's had to go, or someone said 20 minutes before game, I'm not in the right space to do this tonight. And we've either, we've done a couple of last minute, just not going to do game tonight, or someone's not going to be there and we're going to have we're going to have 2 people here. We're just going to kind of vamp, which is something that's happened a couple times, which is fine. But, a lot of it is, and there's also like one of the reasons why we always do the mid-game pause is for check-ins. there's always a how are we doing? We always sit down at like 7:55. We go, okay, Curtis goes, are you guys ready in a couple of minutes? And we go, yeah, just goes a sec. And then as soon as he says that, that is the cue for one of us to think about a safety mechanic issue. Like almost a guarantee. Curtis goes, you guys ready? And we go, yeah, we think so. I'll wait, yes, but. And then whatever little thing that someone just thought of, comes up and gets talked out. So there's a lot of we're accomplishing our goals, and maybe from the outside it looks like we're not doing a lot of the stuff that we're doing, but I assure you that there's a lot of check-ins in game, out of game. We've done a lot of calibrations and stuff like that. So frankly, I think that kind of like in addition to telling a fantastic cult story, showing that you can run the most fucked up of cult stories and still do it safely, I think that we're doing a pretty good job. Because I think that you can tell plenty of cult stories without involving Chigidiel. So, that's fine.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. Isn't there a song in the 90s about 27 Bethanies? I don't know. I mean, do we mean 99? Do we mean 99?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But there was, if anybody in the audience watched Sawbones, I'm going to bring this up again because they do all their own stupid commercials. Justin McElroy does all his own stupid little commercials for whatever his sponsors are. And you can't find them on the internet because you can't. And it drives you bananas because he was doing a stupid ZipRecruiter sponsor ad. And it was like, the third daughter to eat our daughter's peas that won't eat their peas. Yes, the Bethany. Here are the many Bethanies we have on offer. And it happened to be just that name by accident. But it was right when we were beginning to discover the multitude of Bethanies, and I lost my damn mind. And I can't find it to show it to people to be like, this happened. Because that's in internet ephemera land.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Oh, God.
Bethany's,
would you like to invite into your family? I was like, oh my God.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, this was. Yeah, I think we're achieving our goals fantastically, and I think we're showing that you can do it on a stream. Like you can do it live, you can do it on a stream, you can do it in front of people, you can do it for an audience, you can satisfy and entertain your audience, and you can do it all with safety mechanics. So, I mean, are we perfect human beings? No one's perfect. Are we doing a really fucking good job this particular thing? Absolutely. So,
yeah.
All right, let me check one more time, but I think we're all caught up.
All right,
questions. Great. So, which is perfect. It's about 10:30 here. So, before we go, please join the TTRP Discord. Selkie, who's often in our streams, is a fantastic meme smith and continues to do their job admirably. They are absolutely really, you want a safety tool, make memes about your fucked up shit. Like legitimately make stupid memes about the weird shit you do at game because it's fantastic catharsis. There is a reason graveyard humor exists. But join the Discord. There's a bunch of other things. I think probably next Friday, the second episode of the Oops, It Was a one-shot that I helped run for Fallen Angels is going to come out, and there's going to be some pretty interesting things. There's all sorts of coming. So the announcement that I have is that on February 7th, which is however many weeks from now, we are going to be having our first episode of a Heart, the City Beneath game called The Vermissian Strain, which is a story about what it's like when someone else gets everything they want. And it is going to be an absolute bucket of body horror. And if you watch the Cthulhu Kids Heart game, you've seen it before. It's by Rowan Rourke and Deckard. It's really good. It is a couple of evolutionary cycles away from Powered by the Apocalypse. but it is still very good. It is a delightful game, and I can't wait to run it. And that is going to be starring almost everyone from Negative Space. So we're going to have Caroline and Jason, and Curtis is going to play, and we're going to have Duke. Steven is not going to be able to play for this time because he's got other stuff that he's working on, which is awesome. But that is going to be a story, and that is going to be, so if you like all of the weird, fantastical body horror parts of Wrath and Tears, sketch out your Tuesdays, because we're gonna stretch our legs a little bit in terms of the spook. So I think that's pretty.
And Curtis
much
is getting to play. That's exciting.
And Curtis is getting to play, and it's gonna be it's gonna be exciting because I got a chance to role play with Curtis, because Curtis played my werewolf's father for about 20 minutes in Heritage and Honor, and we Midwested at each other super duper hard, and it was really great. And pretty much no one between Ohio and like Idaho, like only those people had any idea what's going on, because we were like, oh yeah, sure, it's so great to see you. Just daggers. It was good. So I'm excited. I'm excited to work and play with him and those other people again. So I think that's pretty much it for us. Next game for Team Wrath is going to be the 22nd of January. The next couple of months are passing delightfully quickly. Do not worry, the days are getting longer. The equinox is on its way. So, make sure that you sit in front of your sun lamp, take your vitamin D, do your physical exercises. Seasonal affective disorder is a thing. And pretty soon it'll be time for some other people to get heat-related seasonal affective disorder, as all of the toasty boys start to overheat. But I think that's it for now. Remember, you are always more important than your character. You are always more important than the story you are trying to tell. Your stories can be uncomfortable, they can be scary, they can be gross, they can be weird, but if the stories themselves are actively doing harm, you need to reconsider what you're doing. Sometimes you find something that hurts that you didn't know was going to hurt. And that's okay, and you address that in the moment. But work with everybody. Build your sandbox, find your tools, and talk it out until you're done. If the story deserves, I don't know, made up number, 30 hours of your time, preparing for it deserves 10% of that, 20% of that. It deserves the work until it's done. So I think that's going to be it for us. If you hop on at least Spotify and find TTRP Theater there, a trailer for Wrath and Tears being converted to an edited podcast format just came out, so you'll be able to watch us on or listen to us on Spotify in addition to whatever other places it is, and you'll be able to actively hear me work my way through different sound equipment as I actively struggle to unfuck my voice. But don't worry, you'll survive. So if you've ever wanted to hear our dulcet tones in your ear while you work or drive, you now have that opportunity. Remember that you get those earlier and generally unedited if you are Patreon. Guys, the people that make this work, that get the money from Patreon, absolutely deserve it. And triple what they get. So if you have $5 a month, please join the Patreon. Throw it at the folks. I don't get any of that, but which is fine and good and right. But I think that's it for us. So please take care of yourselves. Remember, if you don't think you're valuable, we do. And we're very smart people and we know everything, so you should trust us. So please take care of yourselves. Drink your water and take your vitamin D, and we will see you very soon. So, ciao.
Bye.